Welcome back to this already the final segment of The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I wish I had more than 8 minutes. I got a great segment here with Dr. Benjamin Powell. He's with Texas Tech University, the home of the Red Raiders, and I've had a lot of family who went to Texas Tech, and I'm delighted to have him on the program. He is, we have a lot of people that have been converted to Austrian economics and free market economics. They got their PhDs through conventional Keynesian-driven programs. But after they got out, they matched their academic learning experience with reality and said, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. And then there's people who actually got Austrian economic training, which our guest Benjamin Powell has. And I'm delighted to have him on a program. Whenever you see anyone, if you see on a resume or a vitae where it says that they got their PhD from George Mason University, they're either an Austrian or public choice theorist, and they were trying to get that background into their teaching, and I think that's exciting. Delighted to have someone like you on the program.
All right. Well, hey, it's good to be with you, and we want in the long run here, when you just see people's resumes and see Texas Tech on it, for you to think the same thing as you do about George Mason, about people who understand free market economics when they graduate here.
Yeah, well, I love hearing you say that. I wonder how much that matches up with your colleagues in the way they approach economics, though.
Well, I'd say that the university here has been amazingly hospitable to having a free market institute that I'm running that we just founded in the last year here at Tech. And a number of departments and colleagues across campus are very supportive of it. And that's actually a number of people here on campus who are knowledgeable about Austrian economics, particularly in the business school.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. What do you think about my thoughts? There are a lot of people who become free market, but it's usually after they got a typical Keynesian education. Afterwards, like, what the heck? This is a matchup with reality.
Well, in terms of their education, it's not so much Keynesian anymore as it is most economics graduates programs train people to be what I'd call, if you pardon me, a half-assed mathematicians, as opposed to people who actually understand and deal with the economy.
Yeah, I think you could probably get more out of economics from the psychology department than you can from most economic schools.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far.
From a behaviorist perspective, let's face it. What you want to do is have economic policy predicated on reality. How are people actually going to act based on things that are presented to them?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't mean we have to go to psychology.
I'm being facetious. You're taking me too literal. Don't do that. Tell us about this report that has recently come out by the Free Market Institute. Of course, we're all Texans. We love Texas. You're either a Texan. If you're here, you're a Texan by choice or Texan by birth. I am the former, but so glad to be here. One of the reasons why is because we love the economic environment here. But you got a study out that says that Texas is no longer in the top 10 among states when it comes to environments from a tax perspective to move to. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's the National Tax Foundation that did the study. It's not the Free Market Institute here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. For the first time, this is the 10th year of the report, and they look at over 100 different measures of taxes across kind of 5 big areas: business taxes, individual income taxes, sales taxes, unemployment insurance taxes, and property taxes. And they try to rate the different states of how hospitable their tax environment is, i.e. how much or little that government steals from people engaged in voluntary transactions. And for the first time in 10 years, Texas has fallen out of the top 10 and now ranks 11th in that index, directly behind Utah and Indiana, I guess, are who come in at 9 and 10.
Where were they in the last index?
Texas always has been in the top 10. Now, the good news, by the way, this is just looking at taxes. Of course, we care about our economic freedoms in terms of our ability to be able to interact with others across not just taxes, but other freedoms as well. Mm-hmm. And Texas still does rank highly among U.S. states in overall economic freedom. In fact, the last report I saw that looks at overall economic freedom in the states put Texas at second, behind only Delaware, and it's no accident that Delaware has a lot of corporations there.
Yeah, who you can thank for that? P. DuPont. P. DuPont created a economic juggernaut there in Delaware that was really remarkable. I was one of 4 people that supported his candidacy for president in 1988, but I still would vote for that guy if I had a chance to. Big fan of Pierre DuPont, good governor indeed. Talk a little bit about, so that's very important. I mean, that it isn't the only indicator. For example, we put a limitation on litigation that most states don't have. That alone is a huge reason why people would be attracted to Texas. We can have alternatives to workers' comp that a lot of other states don't have. All these things add up to a less taxing, if you will, economic environment.
Right. Of course. I mean, taxes are the direct measure of how much of your money they take, but the ways that we regulate or increase the cost of business also matters dramatically for rates of entrepreneurship, rates of job creation, economic growth, et cetera. And we find that, Texas regulates its labor markets relatively less lightly than other states do, and it generally interferes with business less, and overall has a less burdensome size of government compared to other states, despite falling out of the top 10 in taxes here.
Yeah, what do you attribute that to?
I'm not sure of the specific change in Texas that's responsible for dropping out of the top 10. I mean, and they still rank at 11, so among states, it's not like Texas is doing horribly here. Although, even if we rank number 1 in this index, I think you and I would probably consider it being kind of like being the tallest dwarf, because in an absolute sense, they're still taxing us far too much, even if we were ranked number 1.
Way too much. And all these comparisons that the liberal media does in particular about how U.S. taxes are, competitive to the rest of the world, they only talk about one level of taxation. They don't talk about the fact that the United States, taxation in the United States has more layers than virtually any other country in the world.
Oh, and compliance cost is ridiculous here, actually, in terms of what you have to go through in terms of the complexity of the state code. So, in fact, actually, I got one of my researchers here at the Institute is working on tax code complexity, so not just our rates, but how difficult it is to figure out what the heck you even are going to get stolen from you. And what he's finding is that states with more complex tax codes have lower rates of entrepreneurship than states with less complex ones. So it's not just the rates that matter, but how difficult it is, and this country is certainly a difficult one.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the bottom 10, and none of them are known for their entrepreneurship. Places like Maryland that lost a huge percent of their top income bracket individuals. New York, who lost a huge percentage because they really committed economic genocide going off after that top 5%, didn't they?
Sure, I mean, and this is what we see internationally.
And they all went to Florida, which is number 5 on the list of best states tax-wise.
Yeah, Florida. It's no accident that you see Florida and New Hampshire among the top 10 of places that don't tax your income, which of course we do well on in Texas here, but have higher property taxes than you do in some of these other places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is the phenomenon. You see it internationally too, when celebrities leave France or whatever and take citizenship in another country because they get tired of being taxed so much. Yeah.
My most I could say irritating tax for me here in Texas is this whole franchise tax. Where you're being taxed. What I call it taxation without representation of what you actually made.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because you're getting taxed for things that you purchased that's required to do business, but it doesn't profit you directly. It makes zero sense and ends up discouraging capital development and capital formation, which are crucial if you want to stimulate an economy.
Yeah, most people don't even realize how many taxes they're paying all day long. They look at what's deducted from their income statement, and they think that's when they're paying taxes. But literally, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, you're probably paying taxes. Yeah. When you buy gas at the pump, when you turn on the utilities at your house, when you use your telephone, virtually everything you do gets taxed in some way, and it's just not obvious to people what the full burden of that is.
Well, listen, we're going to get you back on. Dr. Benjamin Powell, Ph.D., Director of Free Market Institute, Texas Tech University. You have a website you want to give before we let you go?
Sure, fmi.ttu.edu. You'll see more about the Free Market Institute there.
Give that one more time.
FMI, Free Market Institute.ttu, that's Texas Tech.edu.
There you go. All right, I appreciate it very much, and do want to thank each and every one of the listeners out there for a great program today. Enjoy spending time with you, and look forward to being with you here on Monday for another Price of Business. Make sure between now and then you check us out often at usdatareview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.